So when we left Samara, we are on the beach road, which is a nice road. It's paved, and we got some instructions from a couple different people that basically said, be careful because some of the road can have low water crossings where rivers are, and it can be flooded out depending on the level of the tide. But for the most part, everybody said, hey, don't worry about it, just you can make it. You got a 4x4, the road is clear enough, so just go for it, which would be very attractive, very fun to follow the coast, because our destination was to go to Cabo Blanco, which is a nature reserve at the tip of the Nicoya Peninsula. Cabo means tip, or cape, if you will. So, but anyway, so we're leaving Playa Samara, and about 30 minutes down, we run across this beautiful, wide open, looks like very lovely beaches, like an excellent place to go and hang out. But since we've only been on the road for about 30 minutes, we decided to continue our journey and not stop. This is probably Puerto Carrillo, Carrillo, Puerto Carrillo, and just past this beach, things started to get real dicey as far as the roads go. The main road seemed to take a pretty sharp turn to the left. I could see another road continuing straight, but it was a much more minor, not nearly as developed, so we went left, and we ended up going into the interior. And so the next number of clips are going to give you a pretty good idea of what the country looks like off the beaten path. It's real. It's pretty interesting. I mean, it's green, it's lush. Once you leave these main roads, this is not really even a main road, this is really the beach road, it gets pretty desolate and pretty sparse. And the roads go from paved to dirt road, and you can have a lot of potholes on it. So this kind of gives you an idea of what the roads are really like, traveling more in the interior off the Gringo Trail and going through more of the interior of the country. This is kind of took us up and over and a roundabout way. It ended up dumping us close to Playa Montezuma, which is really a cool town, but that's near the end of this video. But anyway, this is the road. We felt like we got lost. I mean, for all I know, there was only one road and there wasn't any way to get lost, but there were a couple of places where the road turns. You can go left, you can go right, you can go straight, and you weren't sure which way to go because the signs, you couldn't find any of the names on the street. So it was really set up for the local people who've lived here probably forever, and they understood where every road goes. Eventually I had to stop and ask directions, but it did seem that these people don't get out very much, because every time I got directions, I never felt real confident that the place that they were sending me to was the place that I wanted to go. But you got to go someplace. So the smart recommendation is when you have Wi-Fi at your hotel, download and have the Google Maps downloaded, the app loaded on your phone. You can load the app on your phone, and when you're traveling, the phone will keep track of you without using your data. So it downloads the necessary maps for a particular segment of the trip that you're on, and then it will locate you on that map with a little dot, and that dot moves as you're traveling down the road. And you're going to tell pretty immediately, because the dot disappears off the road and you know that you took the wrong turn. So that was extremely helpful, and that didn't come until a little bit later in the trip. But again, you download the app. You don't use data. The phone towers will keep track of your location within the map, and again, that was extremely helpful. It's still not 100% cure-all for everything, because it can get pretty confusing when you get to intersections and you see roads that you see names of towns or locations that are nowhere to be found on any map. So, it's one of those things you deal with it with a little bit of patience. And I suppose there is a spiritual aspect to any trip that in some ways maybe we were always supposed to go to Montezuma, even though that wasn't our intended destination. That's kind of where we ended up, and who knows, maybe that's exactly where we were supposed to be for many other reasons. Maybe we avoided a car wreck if we had gone the other way. Maybe the roads would have been completely washed out because we're traveling in the rainy season, and there has been a lot of rain. It's never really been a problem. Tends to just keep everything nice and cool, and everything is green. But I continue to run the camera again just to give you an idea. Well, what's it like to rent a car? What are the roads like? I mean, here we hardly saw a whole lot of traffic. The dogs that you see, they're like totally chilled. They're like laying usually in the middle of the road or on the side of the road. This has got to, which now look at, if you notice these fences, they're always rather fascinating. They take old branches, stick it in the ground, and then it sprouts and becomes a tree. What I read is that they're short-lived, but it does become a living fence, and I think there's like about 10 or 15-year lifespan on the tree. It's probably one of those that grows quickly and dies in short order. But at any rate, so the video continues, and we continue down the road going towards we weren't really sure where we're going, but eventually every road leads somewhere, and we ended up on the right road. What you don't see in this video is once we got on the main road, and it was paved for just a short period of time, just a terrible road that goes to Montezuma. I mean, it is hilly, it is completely blown out. I mean, I don't know, I guess the people like it because it discourages the gringos to come down in hordes, or hotels from building big old hotels on the beaches or something. But at any rate, it's kind of a disappear off of the earth and go to this country kind of a theme, if you will. So again, I think I'm impressed with the country. I mean, I have always appreciated the fact that you can go from one little pueblo to the next, and in between there's just all of this open green space, which is such a pleasure to see, this non-development. And then you have this totally weird contrast, and then you see some guy in the middle of all of this. I don't have him film. He's got like a backpack on, and he's spraying something in the ditch, on the vegetation, and God knows what he's spraying them. But I'm sure it's not something that's particularly healthy or good for the environment. But out of no place you see that, just like this guy with a backpack on, with a spray can spraying the side of the road. A lot of these buildings that we see here, this is how it is on this road. They're a little bit blown out. It's pretty poor. I mean, I think outside of some of the richer, more touristic areas, I think the main part of the country is fairly poor. We don't get to see that if we stay on the main touristic sites. So I suppose in some ways this video is a good reflection of that. Number one, it shows you what the roads are like. If you're apprehensive about renting a car, I highly recommend that you do rent a car. I mean, bus service, although available, boy, I think to do any amount of driving in this country and depending on local transportation, you're going to be sitting around a lot, and that's probably too much time. And this certainly gave us a whole lot more flexibility and freedom in going here and going there. And of course, you get lost, and part of getting lost is finding something new that you never expected, and that can be sometimes a good thing. I also think that this in some ways puts you much closer to the people, because when you do get lost, you have to practice your Spanish, and as in any foreign country that you are traveling in, it is always recommended that you learn some of the basic language skills, because that is the way to communicate with the people. So again, we just continued down this road, and it's pretty much like this all the way on this back roads that we were taking. I'm not showing all of it, especially where the roads get real confusing. Sometimes you get directed down this path that seems like a good idea, and then all of a sudden the road really narrows, and trees are left and right, and you feel like you're on a wagon trail instead of a automobile trail. But I don't know, somehow it all worked out, and whether by luck or the fact that there wasn't a whole lot of roads to make a mistake on, we ended up someplace at the right spot, more or less. Perhaps a little bit of backtracking, but I mean, I think it all worked out just fine. Now you see there's not a lot of room, or almost impossible, if you will, to pass anybody. So this big truck gave a good opportunity just to kick back and chill. So we're kind of, we got lost a little bit, and when you ask directions from some of the locals, I swear to God, man, these people don't get out much, because I didn't even know how to suggest to you who you would listen to, because you asked like 3 different people and you would get 3 different results. And it wasn't, I remember one woman in a small town, she seemed to be the most confident, and that was the one that I took. And she was in some office building, coming outside for lunch perhaps or something, and she was the one that I asked how to get to, where was the road to get to Montezuma. And so that was upon her direction, and that's what I took. And then I think we ended up finding some guy on a motorcycle that knew we were kind of lost, and he just basically directed us to follow him, which we did. And so I would say that in general, like a poor country, they're good, solid, good people. I think when you're in those touristic types of places, you do get a feeling that you're kind of a target, and you're operating on kind of a self-defense mode, because you feel like people are out to rip you off, if you will, and they kind of are. So anyway, we get to Montezuma, and we stop at a gas station, and I asked the guy at the gas station any recommendations, and I think this place is called Treetops or something, but boy, was it is such a highly recommended place. It's like right at the beginning of town. This is a small little town. It's kind of a real hipster, hippie, reggae, laid back. People are smoking pot on the way, walking to the beach, and it's pretty wide open. There's cops absolutely no place. I mean, you park wherever you want. I guess the only parking rule is just leave enough room for cars to get through, and fold your mirrors in so nobody hits them. But in general, that's about it. I mean, I think in this town, I didn't see any cops at all. And asking some of the local people about that, they just said, well, that's how it is. And this is a true libertarian lifestyle, where government leaves you alone and people take care of it and take care of their own thing. So this is kind of a little 360 view of the town. And so just outside of the town is Montezuma Beach. You're going to notice that there's beaches everywhere, and what you don't notice is a whole lot of people, and this is pretty typical. I mean, we are in the slow season, but I mean, this is what, like 82 degrees or something, so I mean, we're coming from Texas, and it's, we're leaving temperature of about close to 100 degrees. I mean, it's 100 today. This is July. We're back, but nonetheless, like 80, 82 degrees, man, it's a great temperature. Not to have anybody else on the beach, or very few people on the beach. I mean, it's easy to find a place on a beach where you don't have anybody around you. And it's a different hike, but there's a hike that we take in another day, and it takes us to Playa Grande, which is completely wide open. I mean, it just goes for, I don't know, maybe 2 miles, this wide open beach, and there's nobody there. So it's in some, paradise is hard to say. It's a description of paradise. There's a lot of parameters that have to be met to call something paradise. I think this country is too well discovered to call it paradise, but let's just say that it's nice to be in kind of a chilled area where you don't have a lot of people, and there's a lot of beach around. And I think there's maybe 3 major beaches at this town. So there's one this side, there's another one on the other side, and then you continue, and there's a hiking trail, and it'll put you on another beach, which is real long. Word of caution, not all the beaches are signed to indicate that there are riptides. The best thing is to assume that, unless you know better, or you see locals and you get to talk to them, just assume that every beach in Costa Rica has riptides and they can be dangerous, and don't go beyond, let's say, your waist, and certainly not anything above your shoulders, because the ocean can drop extremely quickly from this nice shallow beach, if you will, and then it's kind of gouged out, and you're over your head in no time at all. So be careful of that. I think a lot of the beaches are marked riptides and others are not, and I'll make another video. And we did get caught in this area, Playa Grande, in one of those riptides, and it was a life and death situation, but that's a different video. So this one is just showing you a couple videos of the immediate beaches right around the town, and you know, it's pretty. I mean, the sand, it's not exactly the greatest sand, but I have noticed that when the sand is like this perfect, pristine sand, you've got hotels and other development and a whole lot more people. So in some ways, the more rugged the beach, the more private it's going to be. I don't see a whole lot of people surfing, but the following day we came out earlier. I think this is closer to probably 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock. It's probably closer to the end of the day, and people have sort of packed it in. So we got into town, we found our hotel, and I think again it's called Treetops, whatever it is. It's right at the north end of town, and highly recommend it. I have to say the staff at that hotel was extremely kind, very generous, very accommodating, and they took very good care of us. So, all right, so here's a nice quiet walk down the beach, and I have to say I always wonder what this place looked like 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, it's odd, isn't it? I just think down here in the tropics.